So there I sat, really, really understanding that I'm about to engage with this guy named Situ with asking questions. And he asked over 200 questions, so many questions that I can't remember them all. So I've journaled and I've written some of them down so that I can engage this conversation for the telling of the story. And he started off with just spewing 5 and 6 questions at me, and Job translated them to me and then said, okay, slow down, stop. And he started off with, what kind of pleasure do you get helping women? What motivates you to come here to help strange women? What do you think so far about Angola women? And I just like, when Job paused him and said, wait, let her answer. You're asking the questions, let her answer. And I expressed to him that I hope to give women a voice. I hope to help them find their voice and express their voice. He asked me, what do I think about Angolan women? I've spoken to a lot of Angolan women, and I think that their issues are the same as women's issues all over the world. They want to be seen, they want to be loved, they want to be heard, they want to grow. And I asked, well, what is it that he thinks about Angolan women? And he said, I think they're ungrateful. And I go, well, why do you believe that they're ungrateful? And he goes, well, I put a roof over my wife's head, I put food in her mouth, and I make sure the children are fed, and I give her all of the things that she needs to be sustained, and she's never happy. And I go, well, why do you think that is? And remember that Job is translating for us because he speaks Portuguese. I speak English, and no one in the van speaks English. So he says, Angolan women are just ungrateful because they just always want more. They're never satisfied. And I said, well, what do you think about love in a relationship? Love in a relationship? What do you mean love in a relationship? Do you show your wife love? Well, I put a roof over her head. I put food in her mouth. I make sure the children are taken care of. Those actions show my love. I said, but where does affection come in? Where does just sharing your heart and communication come in of sharing that love? We're from Angola. We don't do that. Have you ever thought about doing that? Well, why would I want to do that? I speak with a lot of Angolan women. They are missing affection and love and sharing of ideas between partners. I believe that because you see the women as mainly vessels to have your children, instead of seeing them as a partner to love and to share and to have concern with and to be vulnerable with and to lift each other up. When you're sharing and expressing these things, you might have a different outcome versus ungrateful. He goes, at least Job expresses that, he goes, I never thought about that. Well, how do you do that in an arranged marriage? And I sat back and I go, oh, tradition dictates that our parents pick out our spouses for us. I don't get to pick out my spouse. I didn't feel that way when I was matched with her. And I did what I was dutifully told, which is you will have a wife, you will have children. And here I am. And then another one of the gentlemen intervened and says, well, yeah, that's what our tradition said, and I married for love. I refused to marry the one they picked out for me, and I married for love, but it's not for having gone through hell. And I expressed, well, what kind of hell did you go through? Because this is, again, being translated to me. And I learned that if you go against who your family have selected for you, in an arrangement, then not only will you be cursed, but your children will be cursed, and they wish almost death upon you. Because how dare you go against what the family says? We are your elders, we tell you what to do. And it was expressed to me that if you do this, you could be ostracized from your family. And what was there but family? He goes, so if you know all of these things, what would you say to me? How can I fix my situation? And I thought about this and I was like, wow. And as I paused and I thought, I had to be absolutely honest and said, I can't help you. But my question to you is, what will you do? And he said, excuse me, what do you mean, what will I do? I just told you I can't do anything. And I said, but you become the next elder and you have children now, and you know how your family made you feel by matching you and pushing somebody on you, and you're not even happy, and she seems ungrateful and everything else. What will you do for your children? Will you repeat the same thing? Or will you make a difference and a change? Will you update the traditions such that maybe they can marry for love and then you approve? I mean, how will you deviate or make a change in your world? And he looked at me. And the others started chiming in. That's right. How will you change? What were you going to do? And they had this animated discussion going back and forth, so much so that my boyfriend couldn't interpret and translate everything to me. So I'm not quite sure, but it was something to think. And then he said something and they jumped on him. And I don't mean jump physically, but everybody debated with him. He said, well, I'm poor and I need this, that, and the other, and I don't know where it went. As soon as he said, well, I'm poor, they all said, no, you're not. And that's what Job explained to me. No, you're not poor. Poor is when you don't have a house. Poor is when you don't this. Poor is when you don't that. You can't say you're poor. We're middle class. You can't say that you're poor. And don't generalize like that. That's an excuse. You can't formulate opinions in on some big, huge generalization. And I paused for a second and I look here to my journal because I dared to ask the question, are you justifying this because you feel like you don't have money and money dictates that?
Justifying what?
Are you justifying your unhappiness by saying that you don't have enough money? Are you justifying that she isn't grateful because you don't have enough money? And he goes, okay, I'll speak for myself. They're all saying I can't say that, but I'll speak for myself. You know, your women are ungrateful, or at least she is ungrateful. I can't say everyone. And I have to maintain control and I have to maintain power. So sometimes we end up going through hitting. And that's why. And I said, well, do you think that that's the only way to be? Well, how else would I maintain control? Was replied back to me. Have you ever thought about the fact that if you didn't try to control her, but if you actually supported her to grow and to cultivate a relationship that allows her to grow, that she would in turn possibly want you to grow too, and that when you get to difficult situations, maybe she wouldn't seem ungrateful, but that maybe she would actually want to help and lift you up because you weren't trying to control her? That maybe she would want to assist you because you weren't just about containing her and making sure that she didn't do anything else but her role that you perceive she should be doing? He looked at me and he was silent. And then one of the other gentlemen from the front basically said, what do you think is the most important thing for Angolan men? And I was like, oh, wow, okay. And in my mind, I was going, I don't know. Could it be God? Could it be love? I mean, I know that Angolan men are very religious. I hadn't met a single solitary person who didn't go to church. And I know that love should be the center of all things. So I thought by saying, is it God? Is it love? That would be the answer. And we had to stop. And it was a pee break. And so we all piled out of the car before that could be answered.